What's going on, everybody? I am Farley here again to do another part of this tutorial series, which is in-depth scripting. So as I said last episode, which was the first episode, in case you missed it, go watch that for sure. The point of this tutorial series is to go super in-depth on every topic that I can possibly imagine to really teach people the fundamentals up to the extremely advanced topics of scripting and programming in general, honestly. So today we're going to talk about for loops. And that is for loop spelled like that. A for loop is one of the most important parts of programming in general and in scripting on Roblox. So I'm going to try to show you several examples of when you would want to use them, what they can do, what they are, etc., etc. So this is a for loop, as you might have guessed, is a loop. There are usually three types of loops. In Roblox, there are three because they don't have a do while. So you have three types of loops in Roblox: are the for loop, which we'll talk about today, the while loop, which we might touch on, excuse me, and the repeat until loop. Okay, so those are your three. We're going to start with the for loop because it's the most commonly used, at least in my case. So we have our functions and our print here from episode 1. So what we're going to do here, we're going to delete this, all right? And for the sake of continuing to focus on functions, because you will need them throughout your entire scripting career, we're going to go ahead and make this with a function as well. Although we did not have to, we will. So we're going to call this function makeParts, okay? Still not going to mess with arguments or parameters, because that's a little bit more complicated than we want to do today. And of course, we're going to call the function makeParts so it's actually run. So now we have our function, which I talked about in the first episode. If you missed that, go watch that once again. And so what we're going to do here, makeParts, which you might guess, is a function that we're going to call. And what it's going to do, it's going to create several parts. And we're going to put them in a workspace and possibly change their position, okay? So here we go. We're going to use our for loop. So actually, better yet, let's do this first. So local p, and p is an object here, a variable, because we said local, but we're going to assign it with the equals operator. So equals instance.new part game.workspace. Okay, let me break this down for you. So p is a variable, all right? We talked about those. Whoops. We talked about those in episode 1 as well. We're declaring it locally, which means that we can't call p out here, all right? It won't know what we're talking about because we declared it locally inside of the function makeParts. So if we said print p here, that would work fine. However, if out here we said print p, you will see it does not know what we're talking about, and it says unknown global p. Whenever we go to it, it has a blue underline. That's because it is local to this function, since we declared it locally inside of this function. So that's the general explanation of what local means, and you'll get more used to it as you go on with your career. So local p, a new variable locally inside of the function makeParts, we're assigning it with the equals operator to a new instance. Alright, so I'm here on the wiki, which by the way, I should explain to you right now. Wiki.roblox.com is the most valuable asset to you for anything you could possibly imagine. If I wanted to know about strings, I could type string, all of that comes up. If I want to know about a part, I have all of that part pop up. I have weld. Pretty much anything you want to search for, you will find on the wiki, so just keep that in mind. But I'm here, this is what instance is. This is the API. So the API basically explains the entire Roblox platform, like how it is set up and everything. So I'm here to show you that. This is instance, okay? You see here we're declaring instance.new. That means we're calling this thing here, and we're calling a method of it, and then all of these things down here are children of instance. So we could call instance.new, and then any of these things we could call, okay? Well, I say that. There are a few things that would not work, but for the most part, we call instance.new any of these. And you'll see, if we go looking for it, we will find part. Here it is. Bit part right here. So we have a base part, which is a child of PV instance, which is a child of instance. So we can call instance.new part, which we're doing. So we're calling instance.new, we're passing it. This is actually a function. New is a function, okay, in Roblox. So we're calling instance.new. And then this is the parameters and arguments, okay? Like these things, how we've had them empty the whole time, we're passing arguments and parameters in here. So if I'll visualize this for you. So if we had function That's not how you spell function. Ha. Function instance.new, which you can actually, I don't think you could actually do this. It would probably mess something up. And then we would have something called, I guess, string and parent. Well, that's not going to work. We'll call it str. String and parent. What it basically does is says make a new, and then it would use whatever we passed for str here, which we passed it part, then it would make a new part, okay? So it's just saying if we would have passed a wedge part here, then down here in the instance.new function, it would str would be wedge part, okay? But we're passing it part, and so str is equal to part. So it's making a new part, and then parent is a location, game.workspace, so we're putting it inside of here, the physical game where we have our script and everything and our base plate. We gave it that parent, so it's going to make a new part because that's what we passed into it for string, and it's going to put it inside of parent, and parent is game.workspace, okay? So that's basically, that is the basics, excuse me, of parameters and arguments. And once again, like everything else in this, it'll make more sense as you do it, so don't panic if you don't understand it. But that is parameters and arguments. With that, it's basically passing a function, and it's like they're variables usually. Okay, so you make the variable whenever you declare the function, and whenever you call the function, right here we're calling the function. You have to pass in whatever values you want the variables to be. So str is part, and parent is game.workspace, and it will do that. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, don't panic. Like I said, everything comes together with time. There's no reason to freak out at any point in time. If you don't get something in the future, come back and watch the video again once you have some more knowledge. You will get it, I promise you. So don't get discouraged. It is a lot to take in at one time, but it gets easier. Anyways, p equals instance.new part game.workspace. So we could actually, I'll delete this. This would just print out part. Actually, I'll leave it there. I'll show you. We can actually run this like this now, and you'll see it made a new part, and then it printed out the word part. Okay, whenever you make a new part with the instance.new function, it just makes it by default its name part. So as you can see there, whenever we print out, we just passed it. We passed it the part. We didn't pass it part.name or whatever. It will automatically print out the name of whatever you pass it if it's an object. So since we called print p, it's printing part.name, which is part. Okay, you can see if we change this here, p.name equals not a part, and then we run it, you will see not a part. So it's just printing the name of whatever object you pass it. So anyways, that is our making of a part. And that's not what we're doing. We're going to do, that is what we're doing, but we're going to do it more advanced. So what we're going to do, we're going to add our first for loop. Let me just write it first. Okay. So this is a for loop, and this is the most basic for loop you will get, okay? So what it is, I here stands for index or increment, okay? It's pretty much whatever you want. It doesn't really matter what you call it. You could call this cow if you wanted to. You could call this number. You could call this count, because it is counting up, okay? We'll call it count for now, but the traditional way, people will call it I. We're going to call it count for the sake of understanding it. For count equals 1, comma, 10 do. So this is saying we're going to start at 1, and we're going to go up until 1 equals 10, okay? So whenever we call this for loop, what it's doing, if we have it say print hi, and we comment out this, comments, by the way, are the 2 bars. It turns it green. It means that the script will not read this, okay? So it will not make a new part because it's commented out. If we uncomment it out, like that, then it will make the part, but if it's commented, it will not read that, and that works for anything, okay? So comments just nullify it from being read by the script. So if we call print hi, you will see it will print out hi 10 times, okay? So there are 10 highs here because we told it to start at 1 and go 10 times. If we change count to 7, it'll print it out 3 times, or 4 times technically, because you have 7 is 1, 8 is 2, 9 is 3, and 10 is 4. So there's 4 increments there. If we make it 10, we tell it to count to 10, it should be 1. See, 1 time. Because it starts at 10, it's only counting up till it gets to 10, so there's only 10. If we make it 5, just to hammer this idea home to you, it'll be 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because it started here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Print it out 10 times, all right? So that's basically what it's doing. To make things more complicated, but this is super useful, so please try to understand this. If not, like I said, just come back, watch it again later, you'll get it. We print out count. You will see, even easier to understand, it prints out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that means that during this for loop, count is always equal to a number that counts up. All right? So what we're going to do here, we're going to make 5 parts, because 5, 10. We'll make it 10 parts later on. We're going to do this, and we're going to set its name equal to count, okay? And we're not using our parentheses, or quotation marks, sorry, because it's not a string, it's a variable, okay? So variables you don't put in quotation marks. So we're going to make every part's name equal to count. So you'll see here, it made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new parts, and all of their names are the numbers. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's our for loop. Now what you'll find with this, as I go in here with my character, these parts, whenever I run into them, they fall over. And this is not really related to for loops, but just a general good information to know for parts. The way to do this is the property called anchored. So if we go p.anchored equals true, then we will not be able to move these parts now. And they're actually all compressed inside of here. These are 6 parts, and they're together. But as you can see, we can't move it anymore. And if they weren't anchored, we would be able to knock it over again. But anchored is a property of part, and wedge part, and all those other parts makes it where it can't move. So just free information there. That's that. So this is our for loop. Let's make it 10 times. And what we're going to do now, we're going to change the position. So position is a property of parts, which is obviously its position. And so it has an x, a y, and a z value, because it is a vector 3 value. A vector 3, basically, it just holds, it's an x, y, and a z. It's a vector 3, okay? You can use it for other things whenever you get super advanced, but for the time being, you want to make sure you just know that the vector 3 is an x, y, and z. It's usually dealing with C-frame or with positions, and all of that stuff. There are color 3, so don't worry about that right now. So just know a vector 3 is an x, y, and z. Just rule that for now. Later on, we'll get a little bit more advanced with that. But a vector 3 value, just know is an x, y, and z. Usually has to do, pretty much always, has to do with position or C-frame. So what we're going to do, we are going to make them, we're going to set y equal to 3. So it'll be 3 studs up into the air, because y is up and down. X is one direction, left and right, and Z is the other direction, forward and backwards, okay? But there's no, like, that is dependent on where you're at, whatnot. It's a frame of reference, but don't worry about it. Just know Y is up and down, X and Z are forward, backward, left and right. It doesn't really matter which one you go. Okay, we're going to make the Z equal to 0, and then X, this is where we're going to change it. We're going to set X equal to count times 2, okay? So what this is going to do, on our first one, count's going to be equal to 1. So it's going to take 1 times 2. And it's going to put our first part at the position 2, 3, 0. Our next part, count will be equal to 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. So it'll be at 4, 3, 0. Our third iteration, count will be 3. So it's going to be 6 and then 3, 0. So I'll show you that now. And they will all be in a line. Okay. And as you see, they're in a line. Now, what happened here is they did not move over further. Let me change this actually. They were not moved over far enough, and so they started stacking on top of each other. But if I put it on the z-axis, where they're only 2 studs long, you can see now none of them stack on each other. They just line up. Okay. If we switch this back to the way it was, and we were setting the C-frame like this. C-frame ignores collisions. So in this way, now, oh, what did I do? Oh, derp, forgot the .new. You usually want to have a .new for stuff like that. You'll see now they're just overlapping each other. Okay, so this is 10 parts, and they're all overlapping. But yeah, that's basically it for this episode. I don't want to go too crazy. Things we've learned. Generally, there are 3 types of loops. For loop counts up. It starts at whatever variable you give it, and then it goes up to whatever number you give. You can change this number as well. This could be 23, whatever you want, however many times you're going to go. If you print out an object, it'll automatically print out its name. Anchored makes parts stay still. Instance.new is calling a function. You pass whatever function parameters and arguments you have to pass it that. And these are variables, so you're giving values for variables to a function. Okay, and this is the parent, and this is the object for instance.new. And C-frame ignores collisions. Vector 3 is an X, Y, and a Z position. You can call, count, and for loop. So yeah, that's a lot to remember. Once again, I can't stress this enough. Do not freak out, okay? Just keep on going through this. Practice a lot. Something I haven't mentioned yet that I should have mentioned a long time ago from the beginning. Practice this stuff, okay? You will not get better simply by watching this. This will help you. This will tell you what you need to know, but you have to practice and actually take the time and figure this stuff out on your own in order to really understand it. So yes, watch the videos. Do your best to understand them. Go back and watch them again if something's not clear. But on your own time, you have to be trying this stuff, experimenting, saying, I want to do this to make it a little bit different, and that's what you have to do in order to get better. So you can't just watch these and expect to become a master scripter. The work is on you. I am just here to help give you the information that you need to do that. So make sure you use these videos, use the wiki.roblox.com, and make sure you practice. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was educational to you, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.